Hi, and welcome to this week's video. In this video you get a bit of a mixed bag. You get composite work with the cowl, getting it to the point where I need to have a fully built engine to go any further with it. So there'll be a bit of delay on that while I get the covering sorted. Some metal work, I make up some little panels, and some woodwork. So you get a little bit of variety, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So let me show you what I've been up to. Come on. Right then, so rear and front edges here have been filled, sanded, all dealt with. The very edges have been rounded off, otherwise you get breakouts because it becomes a fragile edge. So when you take the panel on and off, it'll just crack out. Still a little bit of tidying up might be needed, and definitely when it comes to the actual surface for the scratches and various bits to go along with that. And it'll need then a filler primer, well, stopping a filler primer, and hopefully then it will be ready to be painted. But we're not going to get this one to that state for some time. I'm going to leave it pretty much in this raw condition because there's a whole lot of modification need to be done at the bottom there for the carburetor, exit air size and all the other bits and pieces. You can sort of see the amount of carbon which I stuck into the front. It's a large section, but majority of that's just a single layer of carbon. I had a question by somebody about, well, shouldn't it be vacuum formed to make it rigid? Well, all composites, to be at their maximum, need to have the right amount of resin to fibre. So it doesn't make a difference whether it's glass, carbon or Kevlar. You need to get rid of the excess resin as much as you can, because excess resin means it's brittle and heavy. Not enough resin means it's just not bonding the fibres together. But if you can sort of see here, you can actually, it's textured with the cloth because I use the tissue method to sort of squash and pull out as much of the surface resin as possible, where it could be almost smooth otherwise with the excess resin. So I've got rid of as much as I can in the practical format that I've got available for a wet layup. And I haven't got the ability to do vacuum infusion here, and vacuum bagging to do a nice carbon setup there would need it to be in some form of mould, otherwise this whole lot would distort while you're trying to suck out the excess resin. There's no edge or anything, so to be able to do the bagging to get it right. So that's not practical either. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start offering this up, and the initial bit to try and get sorted out is I've just temporarily sort of stuck the oil pump into place, because that's going to be an issue because we've got the cam cut out here. It makes it a bit of an issue, so this sticks out forward. That is going to protrude through the cowl here somewhere, slightly offset to this side. So there's a bit more cowl to come out for that. I'm not sure how much yet. I've cut a square or rectangular hole there for the oil pump, so it just protrudes here, literally just, and I want to make sure I've got a bit of clearance. So I've got clearance now on the inside. I don't know if you can see that, but down here we've got clearance now, so air can get in around there, but that's not really why I've done it. That's to allow a gap all the way around, so as the engine shakes, rattles and rolls, as it will do in operation, there's a bit of space. So at some stage I'll take a photograph of the front of the aircraft and see if I can work out some sort of pleasing shape to have all the cutouts and things that sort of join together. Hopefully the video bits came out for me trimming. I'm not sure they did. I think my camera autofocus decided it wasn't going to focus. Right, but hey ho, here we go. I've done the cutouts, the basic cutouts. There'll be a little bit, there's a little bit of a step there. There'll be a little bit of trimming and fettling around the edges for the final assembly. I hope I've actually got the gripper pin in through the hole, but hey ho, I'll deal with that. Overall, it's the sow's ear. It's still a bit of a sow's ear, that front section there, which needs to be, that all needs to be tidied up a bit, but that's something for the future, as I said. We've got both sides cut away, this side's finished up quite nicely, reasonable gaps, clearances there, rounded off so there shouldn't be too much of a hassle. It's quite a deep cutaway at the bottom here to allow for the push rod tubes. That will probably have to be relieved a little bit more to give it just a touch more clearance for the push rod tubes, but I won't know that until I've actually got an assembled engine in. About here there's going to be a cutaway for the inlet manifold anyway, so somewhere around here we'll be getting the inlet manifold going through. Again, can't do that until we've got the engine fully assembled. And on the other side, the cutaway will probably be about here, I should think, for the inlet manifold on that side. It's truth, it's all over the place, isn't it? But I don't think it looks too horrible. Hopefully have the exhaust will come down and flow something along similar lines to the bottom of the cowl. I think that would help the view of it. We'll see how we get on. But at the moment I've got to the point now where I'm not going any further with that lower cowl. I'll take the cylinder heads off and stick them away. Hey, and we'll start playing with taking the engine off and doing our other things. We'll see how everything gets on from there. Right then, let's get cracking. Well, this is a little bit of a artist's impression of what the front end would look like by just using a bit of a drawing program. That's the sort of shape of intake, enough at the bottom there to allow air to go into the oil cooler and to sort of give a bit of symmetry around the front of the face of the aircraft. Back at square one, cowl in the corner. So I've put two pieces of ply together, one about 1/2 inch, close to 3/4 inch ply, and a piece of 3/8 ply together, just marked at the corners, and then I've copied from my my original sort of drawing. I've just put that on. Use a pencil on the other side, standard sort of tracing method to get a light outline to the shape that we want. And now I'm just going to put this on, make sure it covers up the round holes bit where the fasteners are going to go, and I can draw around that with my pencil. So I've got quite a nice marking there, and then I'll bore right the way through, and then I'll dress this back using a sanding drum on the Dremel. So I'll just Dremel that so it's parallel all the way through, so I've got something to work with. Well, there we are. I've bored the holes, big holes, a smaller hole, and the position for the fasters. It'll be the same for both sides of the aircraft, so it'll just be, one will be beaten one way, one will be tapped the other. Got this out now, fits nicely into the blocks, so I've just got to sand this to a nice nice shape so I can tap it down and get the bulge that I want on the aluminium. There we are. I marked a line so that I've got a circle here which should suit a quite a 1/4 inch bolt head. And then 4 bolt head should go into that, so quite deep really when you think about it. How that looks to you, but yeah, fair chunk of depth just to get it to sit there. I've tried to make it as teardrops as I can. That's using the belt sander, disc sander, and then a little bit by hand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to soak the end of the grain here with very thin cyanoacrylate super glue, and that should soak into the grain of the wood and hopefully harden it up. And then I'll give that a final clean and polish with some 400 grit. That should do that well enough for what we need. I've poked it through the upper clamping sheet, so that's the height that I want it. That suits the height of the bolt head, like that. Be quite nice. At least I think it will for where we've got it on the aircraft. So from there I've marked a line on the edge there, so that's how far I'm going to drive that in to make sure I've got that bulge the way I want it. And that's all been hardened with Zap super thin super glue, cyanoacrylate, and that'll be hardened up enough to do 4 pressings of that, a lot, with a lump hammer. So now I'm just going to cut a piece of aluminium that size. I'll anneal it. If you don't know how my oil flash annealing method, somewhere up in the top corner of the screen up here I'll put a link to the video where I did the oil flash annealing, and so I'll do that and I'll show you what my end product is after I've beaten this a little bit. All I'm going to do on the receiving form, this thing here, so I'm just going to put a slight radius just around the edges of the holes there so we don't have a super sharp corner when we're forming into it, and that's it. I don't think the form came out too badly, so that's the pressings or hammerings as they came out using my piece of wood through those die shapes. And then I can stick that, stick that on there, trace around the edge and just cut it out with a set of tin snips, and then I'll bevel the edge over with my fantastic piece of nylon with a saw cut in it, just to put the little bead all the way around the edge to help it sit nicely. The whole thing is flexed, bent along that line with a slight curve, and then it'll get polished and it'll look like that. There we go. That's the basic end result. Yes, it still needs a little bit of time, but you can sort of see that that sort of beveled edge where I've bent it round slightly, and see it's got the curve, nice sort of teardrop shape to it all round. and that's currently, to prove that it was working, it's covering 2 1/4" bolts pushed through the hole, so I think it looks quite reasonable. I'll finish off with one for the other side and then we'll move on to the next project. I'm using a piece of litho plate to create the ground plane for the transponder antenna, and I can easily go where it's being fitted with a 200mm diameter circle. It's calculated out that I only need to have a 140mm diameter circle, I think it is, would be adequate. And you can go up, you get an increase according to the instructions with the trig transponder. You get an increased performance by going slightly larger on the ground plane up to a 700mm diameter ground plane. After that it has no effect, no real benefit. So there we have it. It is thin, it's 0.06mm thick. Using a micrometer, I measured that. Yeah, so it's thin, but it's quite a stiff aluminium alloy, and that will fit in. So that goes in, it will sit in just there, like that, with the aerial going through the centre of it, and the coax going out as required. Relatively straightforward. I've put a couple of pieces of 16th ply, sort of see clamps to the aircraft there, and a piece of wood along the bottom, tying those 2 pieces together. A piece of tape at the top at the moment just to act as a marker. So as the elevator push rod moves, you can sort of see that it's got a clearance there. It's not parallel. The 2 lines aren't parallel. They're just in parallel with where the rod is at each end of the travel. That piece of tape just needs to go up about 3mm. The front and rear vertical lines is the extent to which the cutout is going to be. So now I've got this, I can unclamp it and use that to mark up the plywood to go on the side of the aircraft for the covering. Well, there we have it. I've chamfered around the edges so that it sits correctly, and I've scalloped the front edge here for the covering to sit. This will sit about 3/4 of an inch in on the from the edge of the hinge line, and I've just got to dress back the stringer very slightly so there isn't a step on the bottom, so it sits nice for it there. There's the panel in position, so you can sort of see the clearance that we've got. I think that worked quite nicely. You can see that I've got the sort of scalloped edge there. I've sanded back the edge of the plywood along the bottom there, so it's now in profile with the rest of the string. You saw how I sort of did the undercut, the chamfer underneath to get it to sit back far enough. So that is, this section here is flat profile going all the way forward, but we've got the radius going around the stringer. So effectively this bit's now done, so I can take the tailplane off and get on with the next little job. Well, that's it for this week. We're getting a little bit closer to being able to do the covering. Still some work to go, but we're getting that bit closer. So keep well, keep fit, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.